Hello, welcome everyone. Happy Thursday. I am so excited to share our guest with you today. Her name is Alyssa Celotto. She is going to talk about the connection between nutrition and mental health, which, I'm pretty open about my struggle with anxiety and depression. And I'm always looking for ways to help manage that, especially taking the holistic route. So I'm very excited that I got connected with Alyssa, and I cannot wait to have her share with you. So I'm going to bring her on, and she'll be able to introduce herself a little bit more clearly as to what she does. And hi, Alyssa.
Hello, Jana. How's it going?
Good. So tell us just a little bit about your background. I know you said you are a registered dietitian.
Yes.
So go ahead, take it away.
Yes. So I do have my master's degree in dietetics. I am a registered dietitian, but I do honestly I made this decision over the past year where I would just like to officially dive into the title nutrition and wellness coach. And a big reason for that is because I kind of feel like um, now maybe other people will agree with this kind of feeling, but like a dietitian to me kind of gives me the sense that it is um, a little standardized, a little limiting in some ways. I have grown experientially over the past several years through my, passion in my research in nutrition. And so I feel that it's like I want to be able to talk about so much more than food. And of course, we're going to talk about food without a doubt today. But yeah, I definitely love to be able to talk about so much more than food. So nutrition and wellness coach is what you can call me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to take myself off the screen so that you can share your topic, and then I'll come back on. I'll have a couple questions for you.
Excellent. Thank you. So, number one, I want to welcome everybody to my under construction kitchen. I live in a fixer-upper, so right now our kitchen is under construction, and it's probably like one of two. I don't know. We're getting there. We got a few more. We got a few more rooms to remodel. So, what I want to cover with you today is how your emotions, your brain, and your gut work together, what foods increase the need for, what nutrients you need for mental and emotional well-being, and what foods will increase the risk for anxiety and depression. And then I'll have a few free resources to offer to you at the end that will invite, my intention is to invite some more calm and relaxation into your life. So I think you're really going to like this training a lot, specifically if you are not only a mom, but a mom who just wants more. You actually enjoy challenges. You actually enjoy working hard. Like those things are okay. And yet you deal with mental and emotional difficulties. And those could include things like anxiety or depression. They might include things just like stress, brain fog, not brain fog. Anyway, yes, sometimes I think that in ways we can kind of discount certain mental or emotional experiences that we have. So that's why I just want to kind of include stress and brain fog just as a couple of examples. So you may think that you may have like this vision or this feeling of yourself, of this person who's living the life where you're in control of your mental and emotional well-being. And you're also in a place where you are enjoying the fruits of all of your labor, And even though you won't give up, there is no doubt it gets hard, especially when emotional and mental difficulties seem to strike at random. And you may not know the solution yet. However, there's still that vision or that feeling that you have inside of yourself that just keeps you going. And I mean, I say this from experience as well, because I have absolutely been there. I mean, rewind like 10 years ago. I was doing everything that I was supposed to be doing. And yet there was still like this emptiness that I experienced. So I had good paying jobs. I stayed active as often as I could. And all I really mean by that is I was committed to exercising at a higher, like a moderate to a higher intensity for a minimum of 30 minutes. And that was despite whether or not I enjoyed the activity that I was doing. And I ate as healthy as I could. And again, that's also despite whether or not I actually wanted something else. And so that emptiness that I kind of experienced, that was like depression lurking in the background. And also when like life just didn't go the way that I wanted or needed it to, anxiety kicked in like crazy. And what I experienced with that was just a complete loss of appetite. And I was just so unable to eat. It was terrible. It was painful, you know, and I mean, I didn't want to endure that pain anymore, of course, because who does like pain? So what I did was I reached out for support. And I will say that it wasn't the first time that I had done it, but it was the first therapist that I can remember who actually taught me how to build my self-esteem. The first therapist who actually informed me of how negatively I was speaking to myself. And there was never a therapist that I had before who had actually reminded me multiple times about the importance of eating well in for the purpose of caring for my mental well-being, despite the reminders that I gave back to her saying, yeah, I know, I'm a dietitian. You know, like the thing is though, is that there really was so much more that I needed to be aware of. And so the thing is that she planted, those reminders were seeds that she was planting in my mind, because eventually that grew into an interest. It grew into a passion and an appreciation for the fact that what we eat really does have such a significant impact on how we feel emotionally and mentally. So I'm going to take a sip of water for 1 sec. And I'm sorry if you can hear me swallowing because my microphone is right here. And I just want you to take a breath and just see that version of yourself that you hold in your mind, or that version of yourself that you can feel, you know, she's there. And I want you to recognize that there will be a point, there can be a point where you can notice when you're feeling anxious, you can notice when you're feeling depressed, even if you're overwhelmed, foggy brained, because these are in essence, to an extent, some natural things that happen to us, right? If that's something that we deal with, they don't just disappear, you know. But there can be a day where we notice that these things are happening, and instead of reacting in ways that later on we're like, oh my gosh, I wish I didn't do that, we respond in much more nurturing ways that are supporting our brain, and a couple more things, which I will get to shortly. And that's even in a world where, you know, we are taught to discount or even ignore our feelings, where we are enabled to trust ourselves less. And the fact that medicine is often the like go-to solution before lifestyle factors. So I just want you to imagine also, like, what if your brain didn't work against you, but it allowed you to embrace all of those totally natural parts about yourself, no matter what is happening in your life. So as you might guess, I'm going to tell you that that is absolutely possible. And it starts with nourishing not just your brain, but your belly as well, with supportive nutrients. And I'll even give you permission to continue enjoying foods that you love, even if they don't contain all of those supportive nutrients. Because even though food is fuel, it is more than that. Food is pleasure, it's comfort, it's therapy, it's culture, it is tradition. Food tastes good, it brings us together. Food is a source of joy in our lives. And that's okay. But I will say, let's put a pin in that, because that's a whole topic for a whole other day. All right. But I at least wanted to plant that seed in your brain to, if you haven't considered quite clearly yet about how food really is more than fuel, I want that to at least have a little time to take root in your mind. So first, let's start talking about your gut. All right. So we've all got guts, and what's present in there are hormones, microbes, neurotransmitters, and other natural chemicals that provide your brain with sensory information. That sensory information being your appetite, even if you feel sleepy, if you are feeling pain, and you might guess, your mood. Now, your gut and your brain communicate between each other. It's not just your brain that's taking in information from the external world and the internal world and telling your gut what to do. Your gut can actually function entirely on its own without the brain. But these two organs communicate with each other. All right. So when your brain is taking in all that information from the internal or external environment, then it's sending messages back to your gut based on what's happening. And that will cause the gut to adjust its function. And a big reason behind that, too, is because your brain is eliciting emotions. Okay, so emotions are sending out chemical reactions through the body, and that's impacting how we feel. So just for an example, stressful situations may be experienced in your gut in the form of a stomach ache or indigestion, as I described when intense anxiety hit me several years ago, stole my appetite. So I was completely unable to eat. I had to force myself to eat. And I mean, it could go as far as nausea or vomiting. And I will give you a little hint too, that this food mood connection that I'm describing here does play a big part in our love or our aversion for certain foods. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now, food can be either stress inducing or stress relieving. And you might describe these foods as good or bad, but I like to be as specific as possible and really indicate what is happening. And it's that certain foods are either stress inducing or they are stress relieving. Okay, so the foods that are stress inducing, the foods that kind of create a little bit of disorder, dysfunction within our body, are the foods that are much more significantly refined. And those foods are going to contain things like trans fat, excess saturated fat, excess refined sugar. And note that the emphasis is on excess, okay? Because just to go back to a little note that I made earlier with the fact that it's still okay to enjoy the foods that you love, even if they don't contain all of the supportive nutrients, all of the stress relieving foods, right? And that could also include artificial sweeteners as well. Now, the stress relieving foods are what I call closer to nature foods. So I describe closer to nature. I break it down by closer, meaning in relation to distance. Nature, in relation to an authentic state of being. So the closer to nature a food is, the closer it is to its authentic state of being. And in a lot of cases, not all cases, but in a lot of cases, that will tend to be the most nutritious state. Okay. And so foods, closer to nature foods will contain fiber, vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, protein, and anti-inflammatory fats. I'm going to take another sip of water. Okay. So my top recommended nutrients to support mental well-being include a lot of what I just specified, but here's going a little bit deeper: fiber, B vitamins, probiotics, magnesium, vitamin D, and vitamin C. Okay. And Janet, I'm going to just kind of call on you for a sec and ask if you want to hear a little bit more about those nutrients, or if you think that it's a little bit more beneficial to just outline those.
If you want to go into detail a little bit on some of those, I was just about to like take notes. I'm like, ooh, what are they? I need to check my, check my diet, my supplements, and see if I'm hitting on all of those. But yeah, if you want to talk in detail on a couple of them, like we all understand like the importance of fiber in our diet, and people know a lot about pre and probiotics and things like that, but sometimes we don't understand exactly why we need specific vitamins.
Yeah.
And, we do talk about like B vitamins a lot, people are pretty aware of. And magnesium is like a whole like topic in itself. Like I have like, gotten in the rabbit hole a little bit on TikTok with magnesium. And I know there's like several different types of it. And then there's like topical magnesium. So if you want to talk a little bit in detail on some of like the vitamins and minerals that we may not, it may not be like very common information, that would be awesome.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to cover some basics. So fiber, it's a form of undigestible carbohydrate. And what it's really doing is it's supporting a healthy gut environment. So I can't really talk about fiber and the gut without talking about probiotics as well. So probiotics, they are live microorganisms that live in your intestinal tract, and they are working together to maintain ideally a healthy ecosystem. Okay, so what they do is they support bowel regularity. They actually even support a stronger immune system. And guess what? When your gut microbiota are feeling good, you tend to be feeling good up here too. So just think about the fact that when we are caring for this world, which we are really a host to, when they're nourished, when they're being supported to thrive, then what they're doing is sending out signals and chemical reactions that will, as I said, like the gut and the brain talk to each other. So when they're communicating messages of well-being, then that increases the likelihood that we're going to reap the benefits mentally and emotionally as well. So like I said, I can't talk about fiber without talking about probiotics. So fiber is, we know bowel regularity, right? Utilize fiber as a means of fuel for probiotics. So let me just identify where you're going to get fiber from. You're going to get it from vegetables, and that includes pulses. Just if you're unfamiliar with the term pulses, you might be more familiar with it if I use the word legumes. Pulse is just a little bit more of an accurate description. I think up in Canada, they call them pulses, and I think that we need to start calling them pulses here too. You'll get fiber from fruits, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. And just a quick note on whole grains also. I'm not necessarily referring to, like products made with whole grains. What I'm really referring to more than anything is a grain that is intact. So I often use the example of oats. Quinoa might be an example, farro, bulgur. Those are examples of whole grains. Okay, especially when I want to emphasize the importance of closer to nature foods. I think it also helps too that I kind of mentioned the fact that a lot of my background is in food service in the school industry. And so there's this big push to serve more whole grains. And oftentimes it even comes in the form of like cookies, right? Like, oh, well, we have anything that's made out of a grain has to be made with whole grains. So, I mean, from my perspective, I'm like, it's a cookie. It still has sugar in there. Like, it's still got butter. Okay. Like, yeah, we might have like made a little bit of an improvement, but it's still a cookie. All right. So, I think it's important just to consider that when we do hear the term whole grains, let's not like see those products on the shelves that says made with whole grains. We're like, oh yeah, this is good for us. Now, okay, so probiotics. This honestly like just popped into my head this morning where I'm like, are they a closer to nature food? Because I mean, in most cases, like we're making these foods, right? For the most part, yeah, right. Probiotics are, you're going to find them in yogurt, in kefir. You'll get them in kombucha, kimchi, and other fermented foods. So at least still they're cultured or fermented foods, right? So that's just as far as like fiber and probiotics working together within the gut, supporting the well-being of probiotics supporting our overall, certainly our mental and emotional well-being, but ultimately really overall, because like I said, they also support a strong immune system. So yeah, I think I'm getting a little excited over fiber and probiotics. It's time to move on to B vitamins.
Well, okay, so real quick. So how do you feel about like supplementation with probiotics? Because I know that there's a lot of talk about, probiotics on the shelf, like that they don't even work, or that the probiotics, they don't even stay alive long enough to get to the part of the gut where they're useful. So what's your experience with that? Do you think that some supplements are better than others? Do some work? Would you recommend any?
You know what? Like my go-to strategy is always let's use food first. I think people really would prefer that anyway, because who wants to be, living a lifestyle where we're just popping pills? Like it's just another. It's almost like the same as taking medication, of course, in a much more natural way, of course. And I have probiotics in my fridge right now. I could show them to you. But I mean, food is always like the number one go-to solution. As far as supplements go, I think it's important that we just are familiar with the manufacturer, what their, I guess, I'm blanking, but going to call it strategy for how to keep those probiotics alive and able to pass into your intestines, Excuse me. Generally, I like to look beyond like the grocery store and the drugstores for any of my supplements. I find that they're just a little bit more generic when we're getting them on the grocery shelves.
Mm-hmm.
Did that answer your question? Do you want to talk about B vitamins?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So B vitamins, they are a family of vitamins. So when we say B vitamins, there are several of them. And what they're doing is supporting metabolic function. They are metabolizing carbohydrates into energy, which is especially crucial when we're undergoing stress. All right. So, of course, we want B vitamins every single day. And there's a real good chance that you are getting B vitamins every single day. I think we want to be attentive to where we are getting them from. But generally speaking, like B vitamins are going to be in much higher demand when we are undergoing stress, simply because when we're in a stressful state, our body needs more energy, and it's not necessarily saying, oh, okay, well, then I just need to eat a little bit more like I would do as more of a recovery state after having intense anxiety. It's not necessarily that, but it's making sure that you are fueling yourself using those much finer nutrients, the things that we're not always readily thinking of. When I say a stressful state, I kind of automatically like think about more heavier, more comforty type foods, you know. But the way that I see it is that it helps to kind of go deeper and figure out what foods exactly are going to give our bodies the fuel that they really need at any given time. So you're virtually going to get B vitamins virtually from everywhere, but here are some specific foods that are excellent sources. So beans, what I said pulses earlier. I didn't specify pulses are beans, peas, and lentils. So beans, pulses, same thing. Those are going to be great sources of thiamine or B1 and folate, which is a really crucial B vitamin. Yogurt is going to be a great source of riboflavin. Tomato sauce is great for niacin and biotin. Avocado is high in pantothenic acid. Brown rice, high in pyridoxine or B6. And then salmon and really all animal foods are going to be a great source of vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 is that vitamin that we're going to get from animal foods. So when you're talking about supplementation, also, if we're not consuming lots of animal sourced foods, then a B12 supplement might be ideal. And generally speaking, like you can't do any harm taking a B complex supplement because it is a water soluble vitamin. And what that means is we will pee out the excess.
That's really good information because I do take I have like a vitamin energy drink that has a lot of B vitamins, and I was recently just looking at the back of it, and it says like, the daily percent value is like 12,000 or 1,200%. Like it's just really high, and I'm looking
Yeah.
at it like, is that even necessary, or would that
Yeah.
be something out of balance? Because I've heard of other vitamins, like if you take too much calcium, it can deplete your iron. And, I'm starting to learn about some of these other vitamins and how
Yeah.
they balance each other out. And it can sometimes be negative if you're not careful with the way you're supplementing.
Yeah, and I mean, even whether it's on a note of supplementing or even like taking medication too. Like I hear about how some people will take these things all at the same time, and you can't because, like you said, like calcium will get in the way of our body's absorption of iron. And calcium is just one of them. I mean, there's so many other things. Don't get me
Mhm.
going on iron. But yeah, that's so true. We want to be educated on uh, how certain nutrients interact with each other.
Mhm.
Okay, so magnesium, a mineral that's involved in so many metabolic functions throughout the body. It supports good quality sleep, which, if we are dealing with anxiety or depression, like sleep is sleep for anything is such an important part of our lives that we need to get a good handle on if we don't, Um, but it does support good quality sleep. It helps our body. This is another nutrient that will help our body to turn our macronutrients into energy. It supports our cardiovascular health, and then it actually supports your brain health too. So, I mean, I do want to say, because I'm mentioning cardiovascular health, you might be like, well, we're not here talking about our heart health, right? But I want to remind you that, hey, we're talking about, like, when we're talking about our body, sorry, I'm pointing in my head as I say our body, our brain and our gut. I mean, those two things are connected. Everything in our body is connected. So when one system is out of whack, then likelihood is that's going to kind of be like a domino effect. So we do want to be thoughtful about as many systems as possible. To me, I feel like it's simplified when we do consider our brain and our gut, because they have such a big impact overall throughout the whole body. So we're going to get magnesium from primarily like nuts and seeds, but some of the best sources are going to be pepitas, chia seeds, and almonds. And then you'll also get magnesium in higher quantities in spinach, potatoes, and black beans. Okay, now I've got like a couple more nutrients to bring some attention to. First, I'm actually going to talk about vitamin C, just because that's a quick and easy one. Vitamin C, so many of us are just totally aware of vitamin C's link with supporting immune health.
Mhm.
Um, and the reason why I want to talk about vitamin C with its support of immune health is because when we are undergoing stress, anxiety and depression are examples of stress. When we're undergoing stressful states, that can um, hurt our immune system. And so that's why it is also important that we are taking steps to include the vitamin C as well, just to make sure that we are supporting our body's defense systems from our skin, because that is what vitamin C is great for. It plays a role in keeping our skin intact. So I mean, when your skin is intact, that's a pretty good sign, like you're getting a decent amount of vitamin C. But then also down to like the integrity of the microscopic germ fighting cells that we rely on really for those internal defense mechanisms. So vitamin C, another nutrient that's super easy to get through the diet. Um, Primarily berries are like one of the best sources. Peppers, um, then citrus. You know how we often think about, or have often thought about, orange juice is like the best place to get vitamin C? Well, no, we can get them from berries, even better, peppers, even better. Then there's citrus, um, broccoli, kiwi, and pineapple. All of those excellent sources of vitamin C. Okay, and then I want to finish up on vitamin D. Vitamin D, um, from like when I talk about it, it almost feels like I'm talking about like some miracle nutrient. Um, but I guess as I was kind of processing that thought, I'm like, you know what? It's kind of just as essential as eating carbohydrates, protein, and fat are for energy. Vitamin D plays such a big role in like all of the systems in our body. So not only does that also strengthen our immune system, it also regulates our blood sugars and it supports our brain function and actually reduces the risk for depression. So, the thing about vitamin D is that it's a fat soluble nutrient. So maybe you see like on a supplement bottle that it says to take with food. And I'm going to encourage you to think of food as what that bottle is really saying is fat. You got to take vitamin D in the presence of fat to help your body absorb it best. Um, Vitamin D you can get from food, but not a whole lot. You're going to find vitamin D from fatty fish like salmon, sardines, and tuna. So if you don't like fish, then your vitamin D sources are even less. Now you could get it from egg yolks. You could get it from milk, and that's whether you drink dairy milk or non-dairy milk. All of those milks are fortified with vitamin D. You can get vitamin D from the UVB rays of the sun, as I think many of us are aware of, right? Um, but that's the thing, is that if we are not getting exposure to those UVB rays, whether it's because we are protecting our skin throughout the summer or we have really long winters, then our vitamin D exposure is just not that great. So typically for like any nutrient, if I'm going to recommend a supplement, vitamin D is always the best. And I'll typically recommend it more like during the winter months more than anything. Or of course, if if somebody's gotten some blood work that says for sure that their vitamin D level is low, of course. Um, so yeah, I think that was it. Do you have any questions on vitamin D or any of those others?
I don't think so. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch it and just kind of write things down. But there are some of the vitamins I didn't realize were in some of the foods that I eat normally. So
Mm,
that makes me feel better. Like even the list of where to find magnesium, I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not doing too bad in my diet. Like those are things that
yeah.
I'm typically eating throughout the week. Now, helping my kids with their nutrition, that's always a struggle. I have two super picky eaters, so that's a whole other topic. But Yeah, this is really great information, and I love that you try to go for getting all these vitamins and minerals through food first.
Yeah.
And there really is so much that we can get from food, and I like the approach of being selective with even your whole foods, like focusing on those vitamins that you need, when you're thinking about your diet, and not just there's so many diets out there that are eliminating things, like,
Yep.
I can't eat dairy, but there are a lot of diets that just totally eliminate dairy, and you have to think about how you're going to supplement, for the vitamins and minerals that you're missing when you do have a certain diet. So this is really great information, just to see a variety of foods that each one of these things are in, so that we can take a look and make sure that we're getting them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of like how I communicate that came from the whole like school food service realm where, like we were serving some things that I was like, well, I don't love that, but let's find what's good about it,
Hmm.
Because I mean, there are just so many factors that are at play with how we eat. And I mean, just something that I see that's happening or has been happening for decades now is like this idea that there's something wrong with us. And I like to embrace the idea that there's actually really nothing wrong with us. We're pretty quite normal, and we just need to be a little bit attentive and more loving and nurturing to who we really are. And that does go into food as well. I mean, I could give an example of I was listening to an audiobook months ago, really just for the purpose to see what are people listening to. And I don't like to do that because I can kind of fall into the trap of like thinking, oh my gosh, like if I got to change this, I got to change that, I got to stop eating this, I should include this more often. I mean, one of the recommendations was to eat an avocado every single day. So avocado, it's great, it's awesome source of fiber, awesome source of monounsaturated fat and vitamin E. But I will get bored eating an avocado eat every single day in no time,
Hmm.
So I really like to bring attention to the like how it is that we're feeling ultimately, to just put a cap on that. How is it that we are feeling for real, rather than what is somebody telling me what to do?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I also like hearing, the importance of, like, even animal proteins. Like, we do need these in our diet, and if you are choosing to not eat them, or you need to not eat them, like, how do you supplement and make sure that your body is still getting what it needs? So, it's really valuable information. And I love your focus on whole foods, because that is what, that we should be avoiding those middle aisles of the grocery store, and, focusing more on whole foods. But really hearing like how nutritious they are just helps me, want to turn my focus back there and make sure that that is like how I'm feeding myself and my family.
Yeah.
And I do try to cook at home 6 nights a week. That's, I don't follow like a certain diet plan, but I do try to cook and use whole foods at home. And, I just like that I'm on track with that.
Yes, yes, you're doing great, and I don't even know what's going on, but I'm pretty sure you're doing fantastic. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned a good point too, where it's like when we are hearing like those good things about all the foods, even the foods that we are eating, it gets a little bit more motivating to like, okay, I'm doing all right. Let me just keep living and being happy with this.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was very reassuring hearing you even talk about things like black beans, because my daughter, she's almost 4, and she eats basically nothing. Like, it's easier for me to list the things that she does eat versus the things she doesn't, because
Oh,
it's
I
just
understand.
very selective. But she really likes refried black beans. We get the ones that are low fat, so there's no lard or anything there, but she just really likes black beans. So, it was reassuring just knowing, like, well, at least she's still getting magnesium, and, she's definitely still getting fiber.
Definitely getting her protein. Great source of
Mhm.
protein there.
Yeah, she does not do well with animal proteins. So she's eating yogurt or peanut butter, which, I have a background in daycare, and going through the food program, so I'm a little bit familiar with probably the guidelines that you had to use in the
Oh,
school
without a doubt.
system, like, where they have to eat well balanced, they have to have at least one whole grain every single day. And I know what you're talking about, like where you find a product like we have fig bars that are whole grain, and that's great, but they also have 20 grams of sugar. So at the same time, like it might be like more of a whole food, it's still a treat. It's not really a nutritious snack.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that is just such a topic. Like I could just go crazy right now. I would love to talk about that.
We'll bring you back because I know this month is all about us mamas and taking care of ourselves, but I'm sure I'll have another month topic where we will focus more on the kids and their nutrition because I know it's a whole other day topic.
For sure.
But this is great. This is really great information. And, I just love that there's so many ways that we can heal our bodies and help our mindset and just lower our stress level and all these things that we can do with food because we don't in our society we do turn towards medication.
Oh no, I lost you. Are you there?
I think we're back. Are we back?
I think we're back. I hear you. I see
Yeah,
you.
it looks like my Wi-Fi is not doing great. So we'll wrap it up. But thank you so much for coming on and definitely share your socials so that people can connect with you. And I think you said you had a freebie. Was that right? Did you have?
I've got a few free resources to offer.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, so
perfect.
I can mention those like in 2 seconds, and then you know what? I'll drop the links for all of them in
Yes,
the
absolutely. Put those
comments.
in the comments so that everyone can find them. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing.
Oh,
And
thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
this is such a great topic, and with us talking about self-care this month, we cannot leave out nutrition. I know sometimes when we think about self-care, we're thinking about, quiet time or spa day, but taking care of ourselves really is nutrition too. I honestly feel like that's one of the biggest pieces to it and something
Yes.
that moms, like we need to do a better job of that. I read comments from too many moms that are like, I didn't even get a full meal today, and it's like, ooh,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
got to focus on yourself.
Probably why, because like we're finishing up, like we don't want to waste food in the house, so we're finishing up the scraps of our kids.
Or just eating what they eat. My sister and I are definitely, we definitely do that too. Just having little ones, it's like we end up eating daycare lunch. And our mom did home childcare while we were growing up, so we were kind of eating like daycare lunch even as we got into adulthood
Mm.
because that's what was around. And we know.
So there's some fun room for improvement there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just, yeah, focusing on taking care of ourselves better. But thanks again for coming on and definitely share those resources for us.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.